found it.
Okay. All right.
I thought we already did this.
We did. We're just going to double check we did it right. Okay, because it was a pre-test. A lot of people struggled, and so I want to talk about it. And even if you didn't struggle, people were still a little off in their answers. Okay, so the specific claim that we were dealing with, or I guess the standard first, analyze how the author's ideas or claims are developed and refined by particular sentences, paragraphs, or larger portions. Really, you're generally looking at specific sentences or paragraphs. If you look at the larger portion, that's just the text, all right? So the claim of the article I gave you, all right, that was in the instructions. So one of the central ideas of this article is that studies have produced inconclusive responses to the question of social media's effects on teens, all right? So inconclusive means they don't know. They had some positive and they had some negative, all right? Now, most of it was negative, but they did have something positive. So what too many people did is they just wrote about the negative part and didn't mention the positive part, okay? So I want you to look back through the article and find one negative example for me. One negative example of how social media may be bad for teens. So if you're in the assignment, you can open the article again, just look through. If you come across the negative quote, something that shows it's bad for teens. Alexis, do you have one?
Yes, I do.
All right, what is it?
Let me look. It found that the more young adults spend on social media, the more likely they are to become heavily depressed and have sleeping problems.
More likely they are.
They'll be more depressed and have sleeping problems.
All right, good. All right, don't worry about this now. We're going to come back to it. All right. So now we need a positive thing about it. That was obviously a negative. What's one positive thing? Yeah, Josh. Yeah.
It says right here, some researchers has found that social media can be a useful resource for teens. It can help them find social support. They are struggling with life issues and can provide them a place where they can express themselves.
All right. So start at the beginning. Some researchers
Has found.
Hold on a second. Where are you at? Got it. All right.
You go from some all the way to the end. To the internet part. All the way.
Source. Get to see how bad of a speller I am.
You're an English teacher. Come on now.
I know.
If you want to make you talk math.
Okay, good. Thank you for participating and not just staring at me. All right. So now we need to write a paragraph. And if you did the assignment, you already wrote a paragraph. But if you look in the comments, you probably only wrote about one of them. So you only wrote about the positive or the negative, and you needed to write about both. All right. If you got a 3, you can ignore me for a minute. So what we're gonna do is make a paragraph. That's not what I wanted. Oops. Let's do it this way. So you can start off with the claim. You can write that word for word. All right. Here is our negative example. And then you have to explain why that proves the claim. And then here's the positive example. And then explain again. That should disappear in a moment, but it just says explain down there. Okay, so I'm gonna give you a few minutes here to go through and fix that. All right, so if you didn't do it, this will get you the grade in the grade book and the standards grade. If you did it, it'll get you the standards grade that you need. Okay, so go ahead and get started. I'm gonna take attendance and I'll be around if you need any help. Excerpt from Self-Reliance. All right, we're gonna read a little bit of The Alchemist, just one small section together, and then I'm gonna read, and we're gonna talk about the excerpt from Self-Reliance, and we're gonna focus on these 2 standards. All right, so the development of a claim, which we just did. All right, it's gonna be very similar. I'm gonna give you that claim, and then you're gonna use the article to back it up and prove it. And then the reasoning, we talked about fallacies last week, but the standard also just deals with faulty reasoning. So when we get to the excerpt, he is very passionate about self-reliance, but remember when we're arguing, we want to use just facts, and he goes a little bit beyond using just facts. And so we're going to look at some of the words he chooses to use to kind of manipulate and overstate his point. All right. And so that will help us hit both of those standards today. Everybody good with that? Okay. So find the Self-Reliance, open the article. And first, I'm going to read about the baker real quick. In The Alchemist, you don't need to turn there because it's a really short section. I'm going to read about the baker. I'm going to read about self-reliance, and then one question is going to be kind of comparing what they need to know. All right, so on page 25, the old man pointed to a baker standing in his shop window at one corner of the plaza. When he was a child, that man wanted to travel too, but he decided first to buy his bakery and put some money aside. When he's an old man, he's going to spend a month in Africa. He never realized that people are capable at any time in their lives of doing what they dream of. He should have decided to become a shepherd, the boy said. Well, he thought about that, the old man said, but bakers are more important people than shepherds. Bakers have homes, while shepherds sleep out in the open. Parents would rather see their children marry bakers than shepherds. The boy felt a pang in his heart thinking about the merchant's daughter. There was surely a baker in her town. The old man continued, in the long run, what people think about shepherds and bakers becomes more important for them than their own personal legends. All right. So the baker was more concerned about what everybody else thought as opposed to his own dream. And so he put that off to the side. It's like, I'll do it later because I want to be an important person in society. All right. Everybody had the excerpt open. All right. I'm going to read through. I'm going to stop us every so often just to talk about a couple things. And then I'll give you some instructions when we're done. All right. So we're going to start with the little poem there. We're going to skip like kind of the introduction about him. So it says, man is his own star, and the soul that can render an honest and a perfect man commands all light, all influence, all fate. Nothing to him falls early or too late. Our acts, our angels are, or good or ill, are fatal shadows that walk by us still. All right, so there's a time in every man's education when he arrives at the conviction that envious ignorance and imitation is suicide, that he must take himself, for better, for worse, as his portion, that though the wide universe is full of good, no kernel of nourishing corn can come to him but through his toil bestowed on that plot of ground which is given to him to till. The power which resides in him is new in nature, and none but he knows what that is which he can do, nor does he know until he has tried. All right, so what is he saying that we should all do when we have a goal, basically? Follow it and try. All right, we have to test ourselves to see if we can do it. Not for nothing, one face, one character, one fact, makes much impression on him, and another none. It is not without pre-established harmony, the sculpture in the memory. The eye was placed where one ray should fall, and it might testify of that particular ray. Bravely let him speak the utmost syllable of his confession. We but half express ourselves and are ashamed of that divine idea which each of us represents. It may be safely trusted as proportionate and of good issues, so it be faithfully imparted, but God will not have his work made manifest by cowards. It needs a divine man to exhibit anything divine. A man is relieved and gay when he has put his heart into his work and done his best. But what he has said or done otherwise shall give him no peace. It is deliverance which does not deliver. In the attempt his genius deserts him, no muse befriends, no invention, no hope. So how is he saying that it's the best way to live? When you're reaching for that goal, what do you got to do? What do you got to put into it? Work, all right? And even beyond that, he says your heart and your soul. So like give it everything. Go for it. All right? So trust thyself, which is good advice. Trust yourself. All right? I have to say that to a lot of students when they're usually with writing. They're like, I don't know what to put. Like if you trust yourself and write, you're usually pretty close. Every heart vibrates to that iron string, except the place the divine providence has found for you, the society of your contemporaries, the connection of events. Great men have always done so and confided themselves childlike to the genius of their age, betraying their perception that the eternal was stirring at their heart, working through their hands, predominating in all their being. And we are now men and must accept in the highest mind the same transcendent destiny, and not pinched in a corner, not cowards fleeing before a revolution, but redeemers and benefactors, pious aspirants to be noble clay, plastic under the almighty effort. Let us advance and advance on chaos and the dark. These are the voices which we hear in solitude, but they grow faint and inaudible as we enter into the world. Society everywhere is in conspiracy against the manhood of every one of its members. Society is a joint stock company in which the members agree for the better security of his bread to each shareholder, to surrender the liberty and culture of the eater. The virtue in most request is conformity. Self-reliance is its aversion, and it tells us aversion is avoidance, often due to disgust or dislike. It loves not realities and creators, but names and customs. All right. So what does he say about self-reliance? What shouldn't, if you're relying on yourself, who shouldn't you rely on, basically? Everybody else or society, right? He's like, if you start relying on society, then you're not going to be able to focus on your goal. Whose would be a man must be a nonconformist, but who would gather immortal palms must not be hindered by the name of goodness, but must explore if it be goodness. Nothing is at last sacred but the integrity of our own mind. Absolve you to yourself, and you shall have the suffrage of the world. A foolish consistency is the hobgoblin, which is a mischievous goblin of little minds, adored by little statesmen and philosophers and divines. With consistency, a great soul has simply nothing to do. He may as well concern himself with a shadow on the wall. Out upon your guarded lips, sew them up with the pack thread do. Else, if you would be a man, speak what you think today in words as hard as cannonballs. And tomorrow speak what tomorrow thinks in hard words again, and though it contradict everything that you said today. Ah, then, exclaimed the aged ladies, you shall be sure to be misunderstood. Misunderstood. It is a right fool's word. It is so bad, then, to be misunderstood. Pythagoras was misunderstood, and Socrates, and Jesus, and Luther, and Copernicus, and Galileo, and Newton, and every pure and wise spirit that ever took flesh. To be great is to be misunderstood. All right. So what he values here is thinking for himself. Now, you don't have to agree with a single word he says. There's a lot that he said there that I disagree with. That's fine. All right. But what we're going to do now is go ahead and click Take the Quiz. All right. There are 3 questions. All right. One is going to deal with the development of the claim. All right. So I give you the claim, the central idea. Explain to me why that's the central idea. The second part is going to go with valid reasoning. So he's making an argument. He wants you to think like him. All right. In doing so, and trying to get you onto his side, he uses words like every and nothing, which are absolute concrete words. Can you really ever use the word everyone when you're talking about people? No, because not everyone's going to think alike. Same thing with nothing. So explain how those words make his argument weaker. All right. And then the last one is just how do you think that this article or this excerpt would relate to the baker? All right. So the baker that put off he's like, oh, I'll do it later. I want to stay here and be important. I don't want to be a lowly little shepherd, so I'm going to do this first. All right? Everybody good with that? Okay, I'm going to give you like 20 minutes, probably 25 minutes to go ahead and work on this, get this done. Once you submit, check the standards, especially RL 2.1 and 2.2. Make sure you're all caught up on those. All right, and then we're just going to have one more thing to do when we're done. All right, so for standard RL 2.3, here it is, analyze how dynamic characters develop over the course of a text, interact with other characters, and advance the plot or develop the theme. This assignment is going to be the only one we do on this standard, and it's going to be over the entire book. All right, so each section that you read, you're going to have to add to this presentation. So if you haven't done so, once you get to the assignment, open it, click make a copy. All right, and then it's going to allow you to add to it. Okay, so each section that you read, you're going to answer a series of a few questions. All right, they're all based on Santiago as he's going through his journey, how he changes, what we learn about him, and how he develops as a character. And so, as long as you do this for each section, when we're done with the book, you're going to submit. You should get 100 out of 100 for this assignment, and then more importantly, a 1 out of 1 on the standard. All right, so make sure you do this one assignment. It's going to take us a while to do, but I'll give you time in class as we work through the book. You can also work on it for e-learning, obviously, too. But just make sure to do it because it's super important. All right, I want to show you exactly how I want it done. So, pages 5 to 13, that was the first section you guys read. We read a little bit of it in class, and you guys finished it. All right, for this particular one, there are 3 questions. Every other section has 4. All right, and that's it. So for each section, you're going to answer these 3 or 4 questions. All right, how you do it is up to you. Obviously, it's a plain white presentation. If you want to add to it, like make it a theme, change the fonts, it's up to you. All right, go wild and crazy. All right, if you want to leave it black and white, life goes on. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and add a slide so we can answer these questions. So
Oh, we can't answer them on the slide?
you could, but it's not as easy to tell. 5 to 13. All right, so the first one, what's one inference you can make about Santiago? All right, so we just met him in this section, beginning of the book, right? We know he went to school for a little bit to become a priest. He quit because he wanted to travel, and so he became a shepherd, leaves his family, wanders around with the sheep. So based on those facts, what's one thing we can conclude about him that they don't necessarily state, but we can know?
Strong-willed.
Strong-willed, adventurous, both are perfect. All right, so Santiago is strong-willed and adventurous. All right. What?
You spelled character and development wrong.
Up there on the board?
Yeah. Wow. Character and development.
No, they're both right. My handwriting is bad.
No, the name of the slides. Character development.
Oh, up there? Oh, that I did.
Oh my gosh, come on.
Struggling.
Apparently.
See, that's what happens when you work on the weekend and you're trying to get it done. All right, good. See, I give this spiel first period. I don't give it to you guys. They're supposed to point that out to me, so I only look dumb once. But they're just like, they don't talk to me. And so they're probably like, that guy's an idiot, but they don't point it out.
That's what you have us for.
I know, but I need to switch you guys to first period, so
Yeah,
we
you
make
do.
it once.
You know what that means? I get to come into school and sleep.
All right.
I have to, like, stay up late.
So, favorite quote, it can be about Santiago, it can be about anything. I'm going to help you guys out with this one so you don't have to go back and look. I just have to find where I put it.
I wanted to sleep a little longer, he thought.
That is, you could put that.
That is an amazing quote, and I think I'm going to use that in my
I
everyday
mean,
life.
you can put that on yours. I'm going to put, we have to be prepared for change. Hit the tab. All right, and that is, make sure to cite. So if you just put the author and the page number like that, you'll be good. You can take my word for it that it's on page 10. And then finally, it asks for a symbol to represent him during this part of the journey. So right now, all we really know about him is that he's a shepherd. All right, and so they mention like right on the first page that he uses his crook to wake some of his sheep up. And so if you Google like shepherd's crook, or you can put in a sheep, whatever you want, just put in some type of picture that represents him in this book, like this part of the book. So any picture that represents him and you'll be good. All right. So if you've already read 14 through, was it 35? Something like that.
Is that what we just had? That's what we just had to do.
14 through something. If you can go in and add that in. The extra question for each of the following sections is, how has he changed? Because he is constantly changing and evolving and moving in this book. So how has he changed from the beginning to the next section, and then when we're all done, we'll be able to look and come up with a good paragraph on how he has changed throughout the book, and then we can get that standard down. If you're a little bit behind on the reading, on Wednesday, we're going to talk about through page 50. So just get through page 50 for Wednesday, and you'll be good. All right, everybody good? Okay, so we still have 15 minutes or so in class, and then we have obviously prime period. And so make sure to get this part done. Make sure you have today's assignments done so you don't fall behind, and then check those standards. If you aren't sure what you should work on, raise your hand and I will look for you. All right? Okay. Ready, set, go.